Hi YouTube, today I'm gonna shoot a very short video with a watch that I guess it belongs in the little saga I had made a video on of the JDM scuba divers from Seiko of the 90s, and you could say that this is the watch that started it really all. It is the Seiko SBBW001 Starfish case, dubbed Starfish due to the characteristic layout. Now, this watch was the winner of the design award back in the 90s. The particular one was made in 1993. I think it came out initially in 1991. Back then it had an auto quartz designation in the dial. Then it switched to the more contemporary AGS. In every case, it was kinetic movement. Kinetics were all the rage back then in the 90s. Seiko marketed them, saying that one day all watches would be made this way. Well, Kinetic fizzled out, I guess, during 2000. It didn't ever regain the elite status it had on Seiko's catalog back then. Back then this watch retailed for a whopping 70,000 yen. That's a lot of money for today's standards. I guess that would be equal to about $900 today. And it is extremely well made, make no mistake about it. The dial has a very nice enamel gloss. It reflects light surprisingly well. The indexes are gold trimmed. They reflect light very well. Now, surprisingly, the indexes and the hands don't quite match. I would expect gilt hands here, since the indexes have gold outlines. For some reason they don't. Not too sure about this discrepancy. I guess they look a lot more like the Grey Ghost hands. But, well, it's just an interesting point. You see the second hand is gilt, but the hour hand and the minute hand are not. Now, the bracelet is a very funky design. You could say it's a tropic bracelet. It's very useful for a warm climate, since it leaves quite a lot of gap in between, with those gold trimmed inner links holding the outer links together. The clasp is a diving clasp. You can see I have it slightly opened. It's a ratcheting clasp. It's not as easy to open as today's Marine Master style clasps, but it does the work reasonably well. That's good, because I don't have enough links for the bracelet. These are extremely hard to find nowadays. So I've opened it for a couple of centimeters so that I could wear the watch on its bracelet. You can see the case is rather large. It's rather tall, sorry. Dimensions are the width of the case is 39 millimeters without the crown. Including the crown, it's about 43 millimeters, and as you can see here, the crown protectors form an integral part of the case, so the watch wears quite larger than 39 millimeters. It wears closer to a 42 millimeter watch, plus it's pretty tall. This case, it's 12 millimeters tall, so it has some presence on the wrist, despite the fact that it's a mid-size diver. It wears larger than expected. It's a very funky watch. Nicely made. The case back is polished. There's a very nice golden tsunami logo engraved the likes of which you had, a golden logo was the emblem of King Seiko line, of course. And this shows that it was a pretty expensive watch when it was originally made. You can pick those up when they occasionally become available for much less than $900 today. It's a very interesting design. You don't see designs like that anymore. The Kinetic engine is very resilient. Usually all it takes is a new capacitor, maybe a little bit of lubing on the rotor so that it remains efficient. But all in all, I've had great experiences with all my Kinetic engines. Now that the charging of the capacitor is resolved with the new lithium-ion capacitors, they're really very well made engines, and even if you get a failure, a complete failure in one of the older 5M23 or 5M43, you can just pick up a new one, 5M63 or 83 or whatever, and just swap the hands, the dial, and you are set to go. It's a drop-in replacement, really. Now, as you have noticed, I have another watch here, and this is the Sibling, the much smaller women's model. Look at that, the lume lit up just by a little bit of exposure in the sunlight. I love those Seikos. This is a 1994 watch, and look at this lume go. If it was a tritium watch, it would have died long time ago, but no, Seiko's Luminova still going strong. So this is the exact same design, really, but made for a smaller wrist. They're very interesting, side by side, like that. It doesn't have a date, which in some cases may be best. Obviously, the dial being smaller, it couldn't support a date. The date wheel on here, by the way, it's English and kanji. I have it on English right now, but I also like kanji. It looks pretty cool. Now, this is a 3M22 movement. It's a different movement design. It's less contemporary, the 5M, but it's more well suited for smaller cases. The dimensions here, the width is 35 millimeters without the crown, 38 with the crown. Again, it wears larger than those dimensions would suggest. The bracelet is also identical, but it starts from 17 millimeters in the lugs, tapering down again to a ratcheting clasp. The exact same design, really, folks. The very same beautiful golden engraved tsunami logo here. Air divers, 200 meters. A very respectable pair, as you can see. Now, Kinetic women's models didn't really catch on because, women don't usually wear their watches all that much. They treat them more as fashion accessories, depending on what they wear. So it would be quite a pain to, set the time again and again, especially with those older capacitors. The original capacity for this watch, I think it was just about a week or even less. I think it was 2 weeks on this one. But this one being smaller, it had a smaller battery. I fitted a lithium-ion capacitor. I'm not too sure what the maximum capacity is now. I'm guessing it's about a couple of months, since the capacitor has a smaller maximum capacity to it. Although I guess, the hands being smaller, there's less torque, so it probably lasts quite a bit. Very striking designs, very polarizing. You either like them or you don't. Very well made watches. They are largely overlooked in the West since they were JDM designs, although there are international designs of those watches too. And I think they were designated Seiko Sports instead of Scuba. That's the easy distinction you can make, but those were very, very rare. For some reason, those were mostly kept as their JDM versions. Right, let's do a small pause and I'll wear this one so that you can see it on my wrist. So, wrist check. This is the SBBW001 on my wrist, and you can see it, it holds on to its own pretty well, although my wrist is rather large, it's 18.5 centimeters across, but this one looks the part. I mean, it has this cute design with the crown protruding quite a lot on the crown protector, so it looks like, a bigger watch than it really is. Plus, there is height to it, there's some presence. Obviously, like I said, the bracelet, I'm missing a couple of links. Pretty hard to find, but, the ratcheting clasp works well. It also looks pretty good on a rubber strap, being a diver, although it looks quite a bit dressy really, for a diver, with all those golden trimmings, but it's not something you see every day. You don't see designs like that. Seiko always throws a lot of designs on the watch, on the wall, to see what it sticks. Credit to them for doing this. Not a lot of firms do that. I'm not going to wear the woman's model because it will look pretty small on my wrist and I'll have to extend the ratcheting clasp on this one too. But this one is, pretty good. Pretty good. Right, so that concludes this short presentation on those watches. I've talked in more length about those Seiko scuba divers of the 90s on the Grey Ghost series presentation. But I thought I'd do a quickie on this one too, since it's, I could say this is the watch that started this whole line. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos to come.